Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I thought it would be a good idea for us to look over a summary and analysis of the final two scenes of Act 2. So here we go. So Act 2 Scene 3. A hungover porter answers the knocking from the previous scene and finds Macduff and Lennox at the gate. Macbeth arrives wearing his dressing gown and says the king is not yet awake. Macduff goes to wake the king, who had asked to be roused early. While they wait, Lennox describes a night of unruly weather with strong winds and sinister voices in the air. Macduff returns to say the king has been murdered. He goes to wake the castle while Macbeth and Lennox hurry to Duncan's room. Lady Macbeth comes to see what's going on, and Macduff tells her it is too gruesome for a woman to hear about. At this moment Banquo arrives, and Macduff tells him what has happened. Lady Macbeth, still in the room, seems shocked. Macbeth and Lennox return with Ross, just ahead of Malcolm and Donalbain. Macbeth confirms the king is dead, and Lennox adds that they found the guards with bloodied faces and daggers lying on their pillows. Macbeth says he killed them in a fury after finding the dead king, and Macduff asks why. Macbeth says he did it out of love for Duncan. At this moment, Lady Macbeth appears to faint, and everyone goes to her aid, except Malcolm and Donalbain. The brothers decide they may be the assassin's next target, and decide that they must leave Scotland. Malcolm will travel south to England, and Donalbain will depart for Ireland. Okay, so now let's analyse this. So, the porter's description of his night's drinking includes some jokes about how drink affects sexual performance, which provides a comic mirror image to Lady Macbeth's near constant questioning of her husband's manhood. Likewise, Lennox's small talk mirrors the conversation Banquo and Fleance had in the previous scene, in which they observed the knight's strange mood. Macbeth reacts to the news of Duncan's murder with predictable outrage, claiming to have been so overcome with emotion that he killed the guards right away. Of course, he actually killed them so that they would have no chance to deny the assassination or talk about Lady Macbeth giving them drink, which might cast suspicion in her direction. The other thanes and lords seem satisfied by Macbeth's reaction, but Macduff's single question about killing the guards, "Wherefore did you so?" reveals his doubt, however small, about Macbeth's story. Macduff knows dead guards can provide no information about who was behind the killing. Lady Macbeth shows in this scene that while she privately rejects the expectations for her gender, she will happily play the part to suit her ends. Macduff's comment that the talk of murder is not suitable for her ears is an example of dramatic irony, considering she planned the said murder. She seems to realise that Macbeth's claim of love for Duncan as the motive for killing the guards is overstated and recognises the doubt framed in Macduff's single question, which is why she fakes a fainting spell just as Macbeth finishes his declarations. She clearly doesn't want her husband to answer more questions. Her ruse works as all the men in the room rush to her aid, except Malcolm and Donalbain. Malcolm also seems to suspect Macbeth in his father's death, as he and his brother decide not to meet with the Thanes to investigate further. Malcolm says that the treacherous man can easily show emotions he doesn't feel, a comment which could be aimed at any of the Thanes, but seems a direct dig at Macbeth's overly passionate speech. Okay, so we've got quite a lot going on in this scene. But now we're going to move on to Act 2, Scene 4. So this is a relatively minor play, purely because it is at the end of Act 2. So what you'll find throughout Macbeth is the fact that at the end of each scene, it's quite minor. And actually introduces characters who play this everyman figure, such as the old man. So the old man hasn't been given a name because he represents the whole voice or the general thought of Scotland or the audience at the time. The same can be said for the role of the Lord at the end of Act 3, which we did last week just before half term. Okay, so let's have a look at this summary then. So Ross talks to an old man about bad omens and a seeming impenetrable darkness since the king's murder. Ross addresses the man as father, although this could be a term of respect for the man's age. Ross says the king's horses ran wild and escaped their stable after their master's death. The old man says the horses ate each other. Macduff arrives, and Ross asks him if anything new has been discovered about the culprits. Macduff says Duncan's sons are suspects in the murder as they have fled the country. He adds that Macbeth has left for Scone, which is an area in Scotland, where he will be crowned king, and that Duncan's body is on its way to burial. Macduff will return to his home in Fife rather than attend the coronation, but Ross sets out for the ceremony. Awesome, let's move on to an analysis then. So interestingly, while the witches are not present in the scenes surrounding Duncan's murder, their sinister nature is echoed in the many references to strange events and weather. So we've got this idea of a sympathetic background, which evokes the idea that the witches are omnipotent once again. So the portents refer not only to the witches, but also to regicide as a disturbance of natural order. Ross makes an observation about the eerie mood enveloping the country, which Banquo and Lennox observed previously. When Macduff arrives with the news that Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, have left Scotland, he says suspicion has been put upon them. This choice of words, or diction, is telling because it implies that Macduff himself does not necessarily see them as suspects. His choice not to attend Macbeth's coronation reveals his distaste for the new king and also hints towards his suspicions. Okay, well, that should give you a bit more information on the plot and a little bit more about the key characters in this act. If you've got any questions, just ask me on Teams or underneath this video. Okay, thanks for listening.